The Supreme Court has officially blocked the Trump administration's sweeping tariffs, a decision that has sent ripples through the legal, political, and economic landscape of the United States. This ruling is not just a legal technicality, it marks the end of a significant chapter in the ongoing debate over how America should engage with the global economy. For years, the tariffs were at the center of a heated legal battle, with businesses, trade groups, and government officials all weighing in. The case wound its way through lower courts, sparking intense arguments about presidential power, congressional authority, and the limits of executive action in shaping U.S. trade policy. Tariffs, essentially taxes on imported goods, are designed to make foreign products more expensive, thereby encouraging consumers and businesses to buy American-made alternatives. They have long been a tool for protecting domestic industries, but they can also lead to higher prices for everyday goods and strained relationships with trading partners. The Trump administration made tariffs a central pillar of its economic strategy, especially targeting goods from China. The stated goal was to address what it saw as unfair trade practices and to reduce the U.S. trade deficit. This approach was controversial, drawing both praise and criticism from across the political spectrum. The aggressive use of tariffs marked a sharp departure from decades of bipartisan support for free trade. It triggered a trade war, with billions of dollars in new taxes imposed on products ranging from steel and aluminum to electronics and everyday household items. The impact was felt across industries, from manufacturing to retail. While some U.S. industries, like steel and aluminum, saw short-term gains, many businesses faced higher costs for imported materials and components. These increased expenses were often passed on to consumers, leading to higher prices at the checkout and creating a divided economic landscape where some benefited while others struggled. Today's Supreme Court ruling brings this contentious era to a close. It not only resolves a years-long legal battle, but also sets a new precedent for how trade policy will be shaped in the future, signaling the start of a new chapter in America's approach to global commerce. The Supreme Court took up the tariff case because it raised a fundamental constitutional question: who controls trade policy, Congress or the president? Lower courts had already ruled the tariffs illegal, arguing the executive branch overstepped its authority. The Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the power to regulate commerce and impose taxes. The legal challenge claimed no law clearly gave the president such sweeping tariff powers. With billions at stake and conflicting lower court rulings, the Supreme Court had to clarify the limits of executive power in trade. The justices recognized the case's significance for the balance of power in government. Their decision today draws a clear line. Major trade actions require explicit congressional approval. The Supreme Court heard arguments over whether the president could unilaterally impose broad tariffs. Supporters cited emergency powers and the president's role in foreign affairs, arguing quick action was needed to protect national interests. Opponents insisted only Congress can regulate foreign commerce and levy taxes, and any delegation of power must be specific and limited. They argued the Trump administration misused laws meant for emergencies, not for waging a trade war. The court agreed, finding that Congress never gave the president such broad authority for tariffs. This decision reaffirms that the power to regulate trade and impose taxes remains with Congress. Executive overreach in trade policy has been decisively checked. With the tariffs struck down, the immediate question is what happens next. The decision has sent shockwaves through government agencies, businesses, and financial markets alike. Suddenly, years of policy and planning are being upended, and everyone is scrambling to understand the new rules of the game. The government must not only stop collecting these tariffs, but also faces the massive and unprecedented task of refunding tens of billions of dollars to importers. This is not just a matter of writing checks. Each claim must be verified, paperwork must be processed, and funds must be allocated. The scale of the operation is staggering, involving thousands of companies and countless transactions. U.S. Customs now faces a flood of refund claims, a process expected to be slow and complex. The agency is bracing for an avalanche of paperwork and legal challenges as importers rush to recover what they paid. Many experts predict that the backlog could last months, if not years, as officials work through the details. For businesses, these refunds could provide much-needed cash, especially for those who struggled to stay afloat during the tariff years. However, the uncertainty and potential delays mean that many companies will have to wait before seeing any real benefit. Some may need to hire consultants or legal experts just to navigate the refund process. the Treasury will feel the impact, as these payouts create new budget pressures. Billions flowing out in refunds could widen the deficit and force tough choices about spending elsewhere. Lawmakers and officials are already debating how to manage the fiscal fallout. Meanwhile, companies must adapt again. Many had shifted supply chains or absorbed costs during the tariff years. Now, they face decisions about whether to revert to old suppliers, renegotiate contracts, or invest in new markets. The end of tariffs brings opportunity, but also new uncertainty. The sudden change will disrupt some sectors, but most will welcome the relief. For many, the lifting of tariffs means lower costs, higher profits, and a chance to rebuild after years of economic strain. The mood in boardrooms and on trading floors is cautiously optimistic. The economic ripple effects will be felt across industries as the market adjusts to a tariff-free environment. From manufacturing to retail, logistics to finance, every sector will need to find its footing in this new landscape. The coming months will reveal who adapts fastest and who gets left behind. The end of the tariffs brings relief to many businesses, especially in manufacturing, retail, and tech, as import costs drop. Consumers may see lower prices, since tariffs had raised costs on everyday goods. However, industries once protected by tariffs, like steel and aluminum, now face renewed global competition and possible job losses. The transition will force these sectors to innovate and cut costs to survive. While most economists agree the tariffs hurt the broader economy, their removal will create both winners and losers in the short term. Over time, resources will be allocated more efficiently, benefiting the economy as a whole. Policymakers must now support workers facing new challenges while encouraging growth in a more open market. The Supreme Court's decision redraws the boundaries of presidential power in trade. Presidents can no longer use broad emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs without clear congressional approval. This ruling restores Congress's primary role in trade policy and curtails unilateral executive action. Future administrations must now work with Congress to shape trade strategy, likely returning to negotiated agreements and legislative debate. Congress may clarify or rewrite trade laws to prevent future ambiguity. The decision promises a more stable, predictable trade environment for businesses and global partners. American trade policy will now be shaped by collaboration, not executive fiat. The Supreme Court's ruling marks a pivotal turning point in U.S.-China trade relations, sending ripples through the global economic landscape. For years, tariffs and trade barriers have fueled tensions, impacting businesses, consumers, and governments on both sides of the Pacific. Now, with this landmark decision, the stage is set for a significant shift in how the world's two largest economies interact. By ending a major source of conflict, the ruling offers hope for a new era of cooperation and dialogue. Companies that once faced uncertainty can begin to plan for the future with greater confidence. The removal of tariffs could ease tensions not only between the US and China, but also across global supply chains. Lower costs and fewer barriers may help restore disrupted trade flows, benefiting manufacturers, exporters, and consumers worldwide. This development opens the door to more stable economic ties, encouraging investment and innovation. Businesses may find new opportunities for collaboration, while governments can focus on building long-term partnerships. America's allies, who were also hit by tariffs and trade restrictions, stand to benefit as well. Many have long advocated for a return to predictable rules-based trade. They will welcome a renewed commitment to multilateralism, where disputes are resolved through established institutions like the World Trade Organization rather than through unilateral measures. However, core issues with China, such as intellectual property protection, forced technology transfers, and limited market access, remain unresolved. These challenges continue to shape the competitive landscape and will require ongoing attention. The Biden administration must now find new ways to address these persistent challenges, balancing economic interests with national security concerns and the need for fair competition. Going forward, the U.S. will likely rely more on diplomacy, alliances, and coordinated action with partners to shape the global trading system. The world will watch closely as the U.S. shifts from confrontation to negotiation, setting an example for how major powers can resolve disputes peacefully. The Supreme Court's decision forces policymakers and business leaders to rethink their strategies, adapt to new realities, and anticipate future challenges. It demands more nuanced, collective approaches to global trade disputes, emphasizing cooperation, compromise, and shared prosperity. This new chapter could foster greater stability in international markets, encouraging growth and resilience in the face of uncertainty. Yet, the path forward will be complex, requiring patience, flexibility, and a willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue to build a more balanced and sustainable global economy. The Supreme Court's decision ushers in both challenges and opportunities for U.S. trade policy. Processing billions in refunds will test government agencies and frustrate businesses awaiting relief. The end of tariffs means industries must adapt quickly to new competition and shifting supply chains. The ruling demands a bipartisan approach to trade, built on clear legal authority and congressional consensus. America's global role may shift back toward collaboration and predictability, strengthening international partnerships. The coming months will be marked by economic adjustment and policy debate. Ultimately, this decision sets the stage for a more open, constitutionally grounded, and globally engaged American trade policy.